welcome to Guys Dealings with Feelings, where I focus on men dealing with mental health issues and solutions. I'd like to ask a favor for anyone listening to please like, share, subscribe, and follow wherever you are listening to us today. This really helps drive the message forward, and doing so could really change somebody's life. You can find us on Spotify and Apple Podcast under Guys Dealings with Feelings, and on YouTube and Instagram under at I2U Thrive. That's the letter I, the number 2, the letter U, and the word thrive. So today I'm happy and grateful to have Eric Mchugh on today. He is the president and of ShopX Web3 e-commerce, co-founder and chief growth officer of Dating and AI-powered matchmaking. He enjoys fine dining, Muay Thai fighting, reading, and anything out in the sun. He seems to be living his life to the fullest. I'm really appreciative to have you on today, Eric.
Well, thanks, Aaron. Really excited to be here, man.
Yeah, man. So could you give us a little backstory on yourself?
Sure. It's nice to meet everyone. My name is Eric, 30 years old, blessed to be living in beautiful Southern California. You mentioned some of my hobbies, but they're Muay Thai, chess, reading, and anything under the sun. Just got back from a Vipassana meditation retreat, which was a beautiful transformative experience. I'm sure we'll touch on that later. I went to school at the University of California, Irvine, during which time I interned in DC and Barcelona, which was more so funny just because how polar opposites those are. Like Barcelona, you show up at like 10 in flip flops, you're like the first one there. DC, it's like you show up at like 8, full suit and tie, summer humidity, you're like the last one there. My first job out of college was at Snap Inc., helping craft their ad algorithm, and then I joined as a bankruptcy consultant. As a bankruptcy consultant, that didn't align with my ethos, so I quit that job after my bonus. I knew Web3 cryptocurrency was a space I wanted to be in, so I started going to random cryptocurrency meetups, met the original ShopX team. We've been building ShopX ever since 2016, 2017-ish. And a while back, we were ideating a problem on the whiteboard. So like during startups, a lot of times you're in a room, you have some issues, just writing stuff out on the whiteboard. Mm-hmm. So we've spun off another company called CartRev or Polly, whatever you want to call it, based on a problem we were having in the whiteboard, like on the whiteboard. So like, okay, this can be a company. That ended up working at one of the best incubators in the world. And why this is important is because at a young age, so an incubator is essentially like startup school where it's like you have your desk clump, you're next to another startup, you're next to another startup, and everyone's just kind of working, solving problems together. So the startup next to us was Liquid Death back when they were 2 people. So why this is important is at a young age, I was very fortunate to be around a lot of people at different levels of success in different industries. So I networked my way, picked everyone's brain, got lunch, wanted to learn as much as possible. So that's where I think I started my spiritual practice, because I noticed like some of them, well, I think everyone's successful in their own way, even though that may sound kind of bullshitty, but like I know some of the people who would seem to be more successful, like some of the higher up CEOs who have more revenue, who companies are worth more, they all had a spiritual practice. Like I'd be like, hey, do you want to grab lunch at like 1 on a Wednesday? It's like, no, I can't. I have to meditate. I'm like, what do you mean meditate on 1 on a Wednesday? Don't you have stuff to do? He's like, no, I'm meditating this time, or this is my me time. Like, okay, whatever, ignored. So after that, so kept building that path, building out ShopX, building out a couple of different companies. My logic behind building out different companies is I think everyone's happiest when they're serving other people. And I think God, the creator of the universe, I think they give me individual gifts. Aaron, I think they give you individual gifts. Each of your listeners, I think you all have individual gifts. So like, if any of you try to do what I do or just copy me word for word, I will beat you 100% of the time because I'm the number one me in the world. But at the same point, Aaron, if I try to be you, I can't beat you at being you because you're the number one you in the world. Right. So logically, you want to serve, you're happiest serving other people. The best way to do that, or the only way to do that to the best of your ability, is to follow your individual gifts, because that's what you actually give a shit about. That's what you're the best in the world. And for me, this just happened to result in 2 companies. The first is ShopX, a Web3 e-commerce platform. We're tokenizing the world's products. My why behind this is overall, I would like to live a nice, peaceful life. I found that difficult to do if the money system was corrupt, aka stealing from me, stealing from you, every second of every day, or even right now, and funding God knows what. So I found physical gold and physical silver to be the solution to that. And then Bitcoin found me as the next the digital version of physical gold and physical silver. Mm-hmm. Whether that be the case, we'll find out. Only time will tell. And then ShopX is just a way for me to onboard people into that ecosystem at scale. And the other company I'm working on, because everything is related, I was on a ShopX crypto podcast tour a while back. I went on this one podcast called The Crypto Economy. It's run by this dude named Mark. We became friends. We kept in touch after that. Then this random AI bot thing started following me. I'm like, what is this? So it's like, Mark, I'm thinking about starting this company. I'm like, okay, well, let's hop on a call. It turns out it's called Data Inc., and that's the first ever AI-powered matchmaking service. And my logic behind that is I think human relationships are extremely important for overall genuine human happiness. And I think social media, dating apps, I think they just push that in a negative direction. So what Dotting is, it's the first ever AI-powered matchmaking service. We auto-generate dating profiles for you based on your digital footprint, and then create matches based on other digital footprints, putting people in the position to succeed. Like, you can't find a happy relationship if you're just texting back and forth. Now it's like, okay, maybe we have the same similarities. This person has the same similarities. We wouldn't have matched otherwise, but now we match because of those. You meet in person and hopefully fall in love and get married.
Sure.
And I want to tie this back into mental health because that's just the beginning. I think dating is just an easy marketplace to penetrate just because dating apps suck so badly. I can go into plenty of details why.
Right.
But I could see this as a community building app in the future. So you'd be like, okay, find me 5 dudes in my local, because I think male communities are honestly something that I think they're very important, and I don't think people spend enough time. Like, there's no real male communities out there.
I want to create one that's not, and I'm sorry to interrupt you, but
Oh, God,
just to put this seed in your brain, which works very fast, I can see.
yeah.
I want to create a community for men that is where men can talk about their struggles and men can talk about their successes. So you got a push-pull relationship. You know, those of us who are doing better than others, we're pushed by those when we see that they're struggling. We're like, man, I remember being there and how bad it sucked. And we can pull those who are still down, not based around a sit around and kind of complain about what's happening, but talk about solutions and things like that. So anyway, go ahead.
No, I love the idea too, because like honestly, I believe in the, as taboo as it is right now, I believe in the difference of the sexes. So I think women, they like to talk, they like just to ideate, they like to sit around do nothing. But like I think for men, you need solutions, and a lot of times you want an activity around the solution. So like a cool thing for me is like hypothetically, let's say your men's group, you go on a hike or something, and that's where you do the talking. So you're doing something, talking solutions, and then you can follow up. And the cool thing about men is we can hold each other accountable too. So it's like for example, I was on a hike this past weekend with one of my close friends, and he's getting fat. So he's getting fat, so we just grilled him relentlessly, and now he knows he's fat. So he started going to the gym again. So stuff like that is helpful.
Sure. Yeah, we definitely can hold each other accountable. So how's the? And I know I'm not saying it right. It's dating.
Yeah.
How's that going? What phase are y'all in on that? That's just out of curiosity.
Yeah, so right now we're on the wait list. So we have a live wait list with around like 400 members ready to go. Our plan is to follow the Uber method, meaning we want to go city by city. So we're starting off with like LA, then probably San Fran, then New York or Austin or whatever city we decide next.
Mm-hmm.
The logic behind that is if like we have like 100 users or whatever, and someone matches like in New York and they match with an LA person, that's kind of pointless. So we're on the wait list. We're using that to train the data. We're still working on an algorithm, and on top of that, we're still waiting for like approvals from like different apps like Spotify or Apple, and those just, those, they just
Yeah,
take time. Like you can't
sure.
really, yeah, those just lag.
That's where you're bringing the person's digital footprint, feeding
Yeah,
the
so
data
like
for that.
yeah, so for example, like I could get 3 matches like Ashley, Kimberly, Jane. It's like, okay, Jane, I get a AI written summary based on her digital. I'm like, okay, Jane seems cool. Tell me more about Jane. Oh, she connected her Facebook. She's the youngest. You're the oldest. Our pattern recognition software says that works well. Oh, she connected her LinkedIn. You both have similar career paths. Oh, she connected her Instagram. You both go to a bunch of national parks. Oh, she connected her to Spotify. Did you know that you both follow this one random Spotify artist? They have a concert coming up. Would you like me to suggest a date with Jane? Jane sees I suggested a date. She's like, okay, I see his digital footprint. I see his mutual friend, so he's not a serial killer. Okay, I'll go on a date with Eric. Let's say we go on that date, we fall in love, we get married, we do that whole thing. And this is where dotting, I think it differs from other apps, is after the match is made, we can act as a relationship butler. So it can continue to suggest dates that we like, or it can be like, okay, well, you guys haven't had a date in 3 months. The place you had that second date is having half off ice cream. You should check it out again. Or it's like, oh, her birthday's coming up. You don't want to mess this up. Oh, she just added something to her Pinterest board. This could potentially make a good gift. So it can help post um, match app cycle, and I think it's really important to go into incentives. Like one of the biggest issues with present day dating apps is the incentive structure aligned with that. So like what I mean by that is like every time, like think of Tinder. Like every time Tinder matches a happy couple, hopefully that happy couple leaves the app. What does this mean for Tinder? It means they lose a paying customer. Tinder is working with Goldman Sachs. Goldman Sachs would sell out their own mother for $5. So Goldman Sachs, Tinder, they don't like this. So they rely on something called churn marketing, meaning like it's like a Ferris wheel type thing. So if you ever heard of someone like I delete the app, download the app, delete the app, download the app, that's all incentivized. So the way dotting is going to make our money is if you like our products and services, you like the dates we're suggesting, you book and pay for the date within the app, we will get a commission. So we're incentivized to get people on dates. So if you match, that's actually good for us. I mean, and I think that's good for people overall. So like,
Sure.
hopefully we can bring back some families that way.
Yeah, well, I love that. I love that, and I know I was briefly out in the dating world, and you have to use a dating. I don't drink, so
Yeah.
I'm not going to find anybody at a bar. I work for myself, so I wasn't going to find
Yeah.
anybody at work, and it was in construction. So if you, find, I
Yeah.
definitely wasn't going to find what I was looking for there. Right. All right, man. So what is Web3?
Yeah. So Web3 is just honestly like most names and most words are pretty much made up. So Web3 is just the next logical evolution of the internet. Right now we're in Web2. So the easiest way to break this down is so think of Web1 versus Web2 versus Web3. Web1, think of it as read only. So you can go online, you can read stuff, which is pretty useful. And the benefit of that is obviously information spread like wildfire. And I think the smarter we are as a species, I think overall the better, at least
Sure.
controllable we are.
Mhm.
Web 2 is the phase we're in right now. So you think of read and write. So the easiest way to frame that is social media. So think of like Instagram or whatever. So we can read content and we can write content, but we don't own the content. So for example, I can write an Instagram post. You can read my post. You can interact with that post. You can do what you will. The only issue is Instagram owns the post, so they can cancel us for any particular reason. Who knows why? Or they can sell our data for nefarious purposes. They're the ones in power. Web3 is read, write, and own. So not only can you read content, not only can you write content, but you can also own the content. So let's say hypothetically, I launch a Web3 product in the form of either a cryptocurrency or NFT. I gift you the NFT or you purchase it. So my area of expertise is e-commerce, so we can use that. So now you own the NFT. Now there's a connection between me and you as a creator and consumer. There's a connection between me and you that no one can take away. So I can send value your way. But let's say you tick me off as a customer. I can't retroactively take it away from you because it's your property. I can't physically go in and take it from you. A government or a powerful company like Instagram or the US government can't come in and take away from you. And I think this is extremely important because I think of currency as content. So to me, money is current, money is content, money is basically energy. So I think the uncancelability of
Mhm.
Web3 technology is extremely important when it comes to money, just because like based on the way societies, I mean, I think, no, I don't want to say society because I think most people are just honestly good people trying to live their lives. But based on the actions of the people on top, they're really looking for mechanisms of control. And if a
Mhm.
single power were to own all the currency and just could turn people off at the drop of a hat, I think that's catastrophic. Like, so for example, I'm from America, but we can use a Canadian truck as an example.
Mhm.
Like during whatever side you take of that, I mean, I'm personally, I was obviously for the truckers, but
Mhm.
whatever side you decide to take for that, like the fact that they didn't do something that the Canadian government didn't like, so they canceled all their money, froze all their bank accounts. I think that's an extremely dangerous precedent to set. So
That's pretty
Web3,
scary.
yeah, like and yeah, like it's terrifying. So I think if that system happens, I think we're actually all pretty fucked. So
Yeah.
hopefully it does. But the good thing is, I think most people don't want that to happen. There are people working on the good side of that. So like, that's either going to be Bitcoin, the freedom economy, or it's going to be a CBDC, which is like it's going to be a fake cryptocurrency that's completely controlled by like the Federal Reserve or whatever shadowy cabal of rich elites just want to just yeah. God,
Yeah.
well, I don't get why they want so much control. Like,
Yeah.
why can't they just chill out?
Well, I think it's
Yeah,
always been about power, man. It's always been
yeah,
about power. Right now, money means power, so that's what
yeah.
they're using it for. And I listened to a thing, Tom Bilyeu. I cannot remember the guy he had on, but he went pretty deep into crypto and how it's the only if you have control of it,
Oh yeah.
how it's really the only thing left that we know it's a one thing where it can't be taken from you through taxation, inflation, things like that. So
Oh, we can.
It,
Yeah, there's one thing I do want to touch on, the reason why I like cryptocurrency so much, and I
sure.
think it's really important. So the reason what drew me to Bitcoin specifically is I think you can't force anyone to do anything. So I think it creates a beautiful incentive structure. So in cryptocurrency, let's say I want to become rich right now and not produce any value. How do I do this? Well, I place myself right next to the money printer, aka the Federal Reserve, and I extract as much money as I possibly can, enriching myself and enriching my friends in the form of government contracts, bribes, that whole shadow system. So if I'm close to the money printer, I have access to money, I have access to power. Now I'm in a position of power. I use that power to get two of my friends, and now there's three of us near the money printer, aka the lobbyist, getting unlimited access to unlimited power. And then the three of us, because we have access to that money, will defeat the people who are good who don't have access to that unlimited money. And this creates a system of corruption that starts at the top. So Bitcoin, how this solves this, it incentivizes value creation versus value extraction. So let's say, Aaron, if you have Bitcoin, I would love your first of all, I would love your Bitcoin. But the only way for me to get your Bitcoin is A, I can't take it from you. B, I can't inflate it away from you because that's just obviously the hidden tax, and go to the grocery store and tell me otherwise. But
Right.
yeah, so the only way for me to get your Bitcoin is for me to produce something of value for you, and then you voluntarily give it to me. So again, I think getting rich is, I don't think there's anything inherently wrong with getting rich. I think you can get rich in a good way, which is great because you'll add value to others' lives, or you can get rich in a bad way, which karma will come back to bite you in that. So like with Bitcoin, if I want to get as rich as possible, the only way for me to do this is to add value to as many people's lives as possible. And the logical way for me to do that is to be my authentic self, because as you said earlier, I'm the number one we. So that's how I can best serve other people. And just think of this like a generational thing. Like that's the incentive structure. Like in our generation, fine, we'll die off, whatever. But like, imagine if people's incentive is to create value. Think of like 2, 3, 4, 5 generations down the line. That has a compounding effect. And again, like as we increase the size of the pie, less people go hungry. People have better lives. People are working in a state of abundance, because part of the issue now is people are in a state of scarcity. And I get that too. You can't worry. It's harder to worry about your neighbor when you can barely put food on your table. But if we're all operating in a state of abundance, that's when the sharing community comes in, and that's where community comes back. And I think it just, having a corrupt money system supply, just like, it's just a giant weight on pretty much everyone, to be honest.
To what?
Except for the people just extracting and kind of being dickheads.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a way to rule. The money system is the debtor system
Oh
in
yeah,
the
that's
U.S.
a
for sure.
yeah,
And
yeah,
so I want to circle back. So when we first started out, you gave us a background on yourself. Then we'll start digging into some mental health stuff here. So you started at a very young age. You were being exposed to, and we may need to qualify success, but successful people. And then I think in this manner, you were referring to people who were they were successful in their jobs, so they were the highest they could be in their job, or they were successful in a fiscal standpoint, so they were making good money, so they could live the lives that they wanted. This type of thing that we all seem to be after, especially in the U.S. So you were fortunate enough to be around these people, and you noticed that they all meditated. And so you said this is where your spiritual journey. I don't know if you stated that it's where it began. That's what I heard. So I'm sorry if I'm putting words in your mouth, but if it's where it started or where it really took off, I'd like to dig into that a little more. Like how because I think a lot of people um, have a problem with that. Like, where do I start, and what am I even doing? And is spirituality Christianity or Jewish. God,
yeah. Whatever you want to call
I'm saying I can't say it right. Or is it Muslim? I'm saying, like, in my world, spirituality is not. Spirituality is a connection with the earth, and if there's a far off creator, a connection to that, and all that individual is, that deity is created, not just me. The humility that comes with it, and all that. So I'm interested, kind of, at a young age, what did that look like for you, and then, like, how did you take off?
Yeah, so to answer your earlier question, like I would say when I was exposed to those type of people, like I think that was when the seed was planted and the seed started to grow much later. So like obviously at the time, like no, 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 I'm not gonna meditate. I have stuff to do. I need to send emails. I have to do a bunch of shit. So that was like work mode, where it's like, you just work the whole
Mm-hmm.
time. But like I tried it. I was like, okay, what's this meditation? So I would try it. I tried sitting quietly for 5 minutes, and then after like 5 minutes, I'm like, this is stupid. I'm done. And then my life continued like that. until someone recommended me a specific book. It had to be a New Earth by Eckhart Tolle, and I think that was the opener for me. So that opened my eyes to spirituality, opened my eyes to meditation practice. And this may sound woo woo, but after that book, that's when all the right content, right people, right influences started appearing in my life. Like I wasn't even doing anything to get this. Just like, oh, you should read this. Oh, here's like a reel. Here's all this. Here's my YouTube feed. So it's all started feeding me the spirituality content. So I've just been going down that path ever since. And I think spirituality, I think it's probably one of the most important practices that I've ever started. And I think the part of the reason of why both of my companies are they're ecosystem based. Like dating is a dating app for, so our users are important. ShopX is an ecosystem. So our company have good intentions. So I think the users can pick up on that. And I think they support both companies going down that route. So yeah, no, and I like what you said about like spirituality, I don't see the point in having a difference of religions, like whether it be Judaism, Muslim, Christian. I think they're all the same. I view everything in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. So I view Jesus as a high level. So like each, like there's a scale between like 1 and 0 and 1,000. So I would say the top of the scale would be like Jesus, Krishna, and the Buddha. So they're individuals who reach the peak of there's no peak, but like they reach the top of spirituality. So like that's how they would impact so many lives. I think Muhammad did the same way. Gandhi, Mother Teresa, they're all high vibe people, and so I view that as the way that works, whether it be right or wrong. And again, like I view spirituality as I think there's one consciousness. So like that consciousness, whether it be God, and we don't call it like the creator, God, the universe, consciousness. Who knows what the name is? I don't think either of us can. I don't think either of us are high enough, like low enough density to understand that. But like the way I think is like, if you think of it like the sun, I would say I'm a ray of light from the sun. You're a ray of light from the sun. The guy in Japan's a ray of light from the sun. His dog is a ray of light from the sun. So we are, yes, we have our individuality, but we're also from the same source. And if I'm hating on anyone, I don't see the purpose of that. And the reason I chose this body, I chose this family, I chose this experience is because there are certain lessons that I have to learn, or there's certain karmic lessons I have to learn, and that's why I was placed on earth. So I'm just trying to learn those lessons, alleviate the karma, and hopefully, I guess, move on up.
Yeah. And so, and that's based on a reoccurring thing. So you come back and you've moved higher on the spiritual level. Is that correct? Did I read that right?
Yeah, yeah. So I believe in reincarnation. So I think
Reincarnation. Yeah.
we're slowly just getting lighter and lighter, moving back to our creator source.
Right. And I'm relatively new to the spiritual. I've been through phases. My mother was a minister, and so I grew up going to church, but it
Yeah,
wasn't the same as a lot of people because it was my mom up there talking, right? It
yeah,
wasn't the
it's true.
same. So there was no real like I didn't give it any type of connection, but I've watched almost objectively for all these years. I watched, and I didn't do much in the church, and then in my late 20s, I went through kind of an atheist phase, and I was like, wait, this is fucking stupid because it's dumb to say there's not a God is to say there is a God. None of us can prove this, right? And I was pretty shallow if we're talking frequency levels, 1 to 1,000. I'm not gonna put myself at one, but I was down pretty low. I was focusing on more of a reactive. I lived a very reactive life up until about 5 years ago. Not where I responded, but I just reacted to whatever life threw at me. I reacted, and through losing Joel, my son, I've learned that you can't do that. You need to slow down and figure out what's important and move from there. So getting back to where I was, so I went through this agnostic phase, and I still am agnostic. But I get this spirituality thing kind of in my brain gets tangled up, and I'm so quick to differentiate from spirituality and religion. Not that I'm right and somebody else is wrong. Just in my thing, I don't want it to be um, uh, kidnapped or taken over by a religious thought or somebody. So if somebody is Muslim and they have a negative thought of another religion, I don't want that to happen because what I'm talking about, I like you say, it transcends all those. All those are just a result of what I'm trying to connect with, and that is, I mean, what's so amazing around us all the time with nature. Period. You could just say nature and just stop.
Yeah,
It's pretty amazing, and it's not perfect, and I understand that, but shit's pretty dead on. Like gravity, spot on. If it wasn't, we're screwed. The way our bodies work, and the more we learn about our bodies, we know so little about the human body. And so I'm very interested in all that, but I don't go too far off because I can't control it. So I am interested in the spirituality. Can you tell us some practices that you use that kind of help? When I say elevate, I don't mean it just helps you in the practice of it. It gives you peace. It gives you um, purpose. It gives you feeling. Like I was saying with me, it gives me humility. So when I look at it, it's pretty fortunate that I'm here and part of this, what all is going around us. Even though the humans have made a mess of it as of right now,
Yeah.
there's a lot of really neat shit going on around us, and it's pretty amazing. And I won the lottery to be here. I've had some rough circumstances come through, but how I respond to them and become, and how I feel about life and how I experience it is what it is. But what are some of the things that you take away from your spirituality, like humility, and some ways that you practice to enhance your spirituality?
Yeah, so in terms of enhancing the spirituality, I can dive into two things. The first is gratitude, and the second is meditation. The meditation, I'd like to go into a little deeper just because I do want to talk about the Vipassana meditation retreat because that's a
Yeah,
good base.
yeah, for
But in
sure.
terms of, so I think of everything in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. So I like, and each emotional state is a different frequency. So like shame, anger, hate, like those are lower level frequencies, and those are less than 200. So if you're ever speaking with someone and you feel drained, it's because they're operating at a lower frequency. And if you're a powerful being, or like if you're one of the people in control and you want to control general population, the best way to control that population is to keep them in those lower states because that's when they're more likely to act. So the powers that be can control people when they're in fear, when they're angry. So that's why if you look at social media, whenever you log into Twitter, it's like hate, anger, war, all that. I think that's by design. So in terms of energy, frequency, vibration, like love, joy, peace, I think those are the higher frequencies. So those are where you want to be. And just like a radio station, if you tune into a specific frequency on the radio station, you get that station. So if you're tuning to that specific frequency, like the emotional frequency, you're going to attract those people in your life. So if you go into like scared, hateful, angry, you're just going to get more of those people and it's going to keep you on the path. But if you're loving, you're helpful, you generally have good intentions for people, you're going to attract those type of people in your lives, which honestly is just much better. Pragmatically, that's obviously much better for you. Like, would you rather interact with people who want to help you or people who just like don't like you and just kind of like get shit out of you? It's like, no, I'll take the first. So I one of the best practices I have is gratitude. And that sounds cheesy, but gratitude is a very high frequency. It's a very high thing, and the universe recognizes gratitude and it rewards you with other stuff. So like I have a gratitude journal. It's very simple. I wake up in the morning, I write 5 things I'm grateful for. Before every business call, I write what I'm grateful for about this call. And then they usually go pretty well. So like I'll wake up like, oh, I have arms, I have legs, I have a house, I have water, everything's going great. And that's how I start my day. Or it's like before this podcast, I wrote, I'm grateful to be on this podcast. And just think about like, let's say I'm like, I don't really want to go to this podcast. It's like 11. I have stuff to do. The podcast probably is not going to go so well. But if I'm grateful, I'm going to meet a cool guy. We're going to talk some shit.
Mm-hmm.
The podcast usually goes pretty well. So gratitude just keeps me in that high frequency. And something I realized earlier is I think my base is peace, love, and happiness. So if your base is that, if your base is peace, love, and happiness, how do you obtain peace, love, and happiness? Well, it's your base. You just relax into it. You don't have to go out and get it. Just like so, whenever I'm feeling down, just close my eyes, relax, and then I just reset to the base, which has been pretty helpful. And I also believe in that. I also one of the rules I also follow is aim at cause and effect. So every thought, every action has a cause and effect. So like every time something happens, there's a cause. Every time you think something or you do something, there's an effect. So if you just continuously if you know that in mind, so you make choices that have good effects, your life will just continuously get better, and that compounds day by day. In terms of, I also like to follow the rule of attention. So I believe wherever attention goes, energy flows. So I focus on the positive. Yes, negative happens, but when you focus on the positive, you get more of the positive, and the universe doesn't care about the content of your information; it just cares about what you're thinking about. So, for example, let's use money. For example, it's like I want to be rich, or I'm going to be rich because it's natural for me to be rich because I'm providing value. The universe, he hears those thoughts, and then the outer world is a reflection of the inner world. So it's like, okay, he's going to be rich because he's provided, and then it presents opportunities for me to become rich. Whereas if you're operating out of a sense of fear, it's like, I don't want to be poor. I don't want to be poor. what's the universe hearing? All it's hearing is poor. So it's like, okay, well, you think about being poor, and then it'll hit you with more bills and more opportunities to be poor. So those are just some of the basic rules I follow. If you're really interested more, the book I recommend reading is the Emerald Tablet by Hermes Trismegistus. So I would say he's the Giga Chad of humans. So he was around the time of Moses. He got all the vibrational rules down pat like way before when he eventually became the Egyptian god Thoth. So that's who he became. And all the secret society teachings, all of that stuff are like the Freemason stuff. It's all based on his, and like same with um like Isaac Newton and like Tesla. Like they all based their stuff on him. So like I don't know, it's interesting. He wrote about it years ago and he got everything down pat. So that was a game changing book for me.
Can you say the name of the book again and the author?
The Emerald Tablet by Hermes Trismegistus.
All right, awesome. Thanks for sharing
Yeah.
that. Yeah, that's great. And
Yeah.
so gratitude is huge, and it does put us in a state of mind. Something I talk about a lot is perspective. That's what you said. Energy out is another thing I talk about. So if you put out positive, you're gonna get positive back. Or if you go around and you're a raging asshole, you're gonna run into a bunch of raging assholes. That's just how it works. And I ran into that wall my whole life, like just upset and angry, bitter, etc. And as soon as I turned the corner, I mean, almost immediately upon turning the corner to say, I'm not living that way any longer, I began to experience the things that you're talking about. And being a skeptic, and I'm 40 years old at this point, I'm a skeptic and I'm getting older. I'm like, well, this is, okay, everybody gets lucky, right? Even a blind squirrel finds a nut every once in a while. So I've had some positive interaction, but literally I made it a point that when I had an interaction with another human being, I started being kind. I was just made to be authentically kind to every human that I had an interaction with. Not deep, obviously I had boundaries,
Yeah.
but kind. How are you doing today, Eric? And I meant it. If you said, "Good, man, I'm doing good," or "I'm having a shitty day," or whatever, I'm sorry to have it. You're having a bad day, and that was it. I didn't have to stand there and talk to you about why you're having a shitty day and all that, which our Southerners kind of get caught in. We're like, we're nice, but we're really just digging for information. So instead of being that way, I was genuinely being kind. I hope you have a nice day, and I would mean it, and things like that. And as soon as I began to do that, I began to experience the same in response. When I began to have the perspective to look for the positive, no matter how shitty it may seem, look for something positive in that moment, even if it's a lesson you're learning to not do again. Fine, look for the positive in it, and I'll be damned if the positive starts spinning around. So I have personally experienced that. You kind of put that in a way with vibrations and all that, so it kind of puts some visual to it, and I'm appreciative of that because I've definitely lived it. And it's hard, I think, for a lot of people who are experiencing bad things, whether it's divorce, custody issues, loss of a loved one, whether it's a spouse or a child or a parent, loss of a job, any of these things, this weight and this negative momentum it gets going, hard to spin out of that, look for the positive. And so I understand it, but if you force yourself through it, and I think that you pointing out gratitude is a good way to quote unquote force your way out of that. It forces positive momentum. It's hard. It's almost it may be impossible. You can probably tell me to be angry or upset when you're being grateful for something. Like you can't be grateful for something and angry and hateful at the same time. It's just not possible.
Yep. No, that's the point. It's like, yeah, like if you're generally thankful for something, like all the negative emotions melt away. And I want to touch on something you said earlier. It's like, yeah, like a bad experience is just a lesson. So like I'm a pragmatic guy. Like if something doesn't serve me, I'm quick to let it go. And I've also realized in my life that if I don't learn the lesson that the experience is supposed to be teaching me, like whether it be a bad relationship or something along those lines, what does the universe do? It's going to keep giving you that lesson until you eventually learn your lesson. So it may be wise for you to pick it up sooner
Right.
rather than later and save yourself some trouble.
Right. No, you're exactly right. And I reflect and I'm like, it took me so long to figure that out. Like if I could have figured that out at 20, where I'd be, right? But I'm grateful and I'm happy that I figured it out now. So now we're going to dive into your meditation, which I'm eager to hear about this 10-day trip you went on, the name of it, the details, all of that, so people will know, even if it's not something that they can necessarily. I don't know if there's a heavy price tag on it or not, but if it's not, some tools they could come away from it, some things they can look into, because I think that meditation in all of its different forms, because like you, I would sit down for 5 minutes, try to be silent every thought that could possibly come to a human mind would come to mind, and I didn't know what to do with them. I listened to guided meditations, and I thought, I'm constantly just batting these thoughts around. And it wasn't until, and then there's some priming ones that I've
Yeah.
done. Those I really appreciate because I feel like I'm a little more active in my mind. But I'm interested to hear your meditation experience. I've learned a lot about meditation now and the positive it can bring. If nothing else, the ability to control my mind and the thoughts that keep popping into it. But the peacefulness and all that it brings too. So could you share about your retreat that you went on?
Yeah, no, I love to. And I also like the priming ones too. Like those are more active. Like it sets the tone for the day, right?
Mm.
So in terms of meditation, the way I look at it is, let's say you haven't opened your email inbox for years. What's going to happen when you first open that email box for years? You're just going to have so many emails, you're going to get overwhelmed. But eventually, if you just check off each one, your email inbox gets clearer and clearer, and it's easier to deal with the emails as they come through. So meditation is the exact same way. So if you first start meditating, you're just going to get hit with bombarded with thought after thought after thought after thought. It's kind of overwhelming. But after a while, your mind becomes more clear, the thoughts become slower, and you kind of just eventually melt into nothingness. So the specific meditation retreat I went on is called the Vipassana meditation retreat, or the Vipassana meditation method. It generated in India, and it's the method that the Buddha used to reach enlightenment. And yes, it's the method the Buddha used, but it's highlighted, like you said earlier, any and all faith are welcome. It's not like agnostic to a specific religion. Like anyone can come, anyone can gain benefits. And I think the more people who try this method, I think the better it is going to be for everyone. So it's a 10-day noble silence retreat. And what noble silence means, it's a full 10 days of meditation. There's no talking with anyone, no looking at anyone, obviously no electronics, no writing, no nothing. You just have your room, a meditation hall, a dining hall, and a walking path that you can just walk over and over again. And the reason why there's no nothing is because the introspective process, it just keeps going. So it's like a spiritual surgery that they just get deeper and deeper to extract the impurities. So like, let's say we're to meditate for an hour right now. After that hour, I'd probably reconnect, like check my emails, check my phone, do all that good stuff and just reconnect with society. But you don't have that there. So it's like a consistent meditation process. So it's pretty scheduled. You just show up. It's completely free too, by the way. So
Mm.
it's donation based. So there's centers all across the world. The main center is in India, but I went to the Joshua Tree one in California. So I donate to the Joshua Tree one in California because it had great value to me. So I donated to that center. If you wanted to donate to that center, you wouldn't be able to. Only students can donate. So it's run by students, and each center is run independently, so they don't get money from the main center. And the people who run the course, like who make the food, who do the cleaning, and all that stuff, they're all old students giving back to support the new students. So it creates a nice little cycle. The actual meditation, and like the food is pretty good too. Like your room is fine. You get a room. Like who are you to complain? You get bathroom, you get shower. Like all this stuff is fine. Like it's a good spot. Like no need
Sure.
to complain. So the actual meditation method. So it's every day, full 10 days, just straight meditation. You wake up at 4 a.m. You start to meditate. The woo-woo side of that is 4 a.m. is or you have better access to the spiritual world. The scientific side is you have more melatonin in your brain, so you're in a different brainwave state, so it's better to meditate for that reason. Whichever reason you want to go for it. So you wake up at 4 a.m., meditate, breakfast, meditate, lunch, meditate some more, and then you close the day with a discourse, which is just a YouTube, like it's like an hour-long video, a pre-recorded hour-long video from the teacher about what you learned today. The funny thing is he's dead, but his lectures are still on point. Like he knows exactly what you're going through at each point.
Mm.
So the specific meditation retreat, or the specific meditation style, is for the first 3 days. You focus your attention on the area around your nostril just over and over again with natural breathing. And then you start to pick up different sensations in that area. And then once you can pick up the different sensations, you scan your body back and forth over and over again. And what this does, it extracts the traumas that were stored in your body in the form of different sensations, whether it be like pain, tingling, hot, cold. It's different for everyone. So what you're doing is you're just extracting the traumas that you sort throughout your whole lifetime. So, and a good example of this would be like, if you're a NASA scientist and you had to send a piece of metal into space, the best way to purify that metal would be to run it through magnets, and the magnets would extract the impurities. So you're just doing this on a spiritual level over and over again. And again, you're scanning your body back back and forth. There are 3 meditations throughout the day where the whole class is there, and those are the hard, strong determination methods where you're not supposed to move or do anything for the whole hour. You're just supposed to meditate. The other times you can kind of move around, which actually is kind of tough. And the way you close the meditation is you store all the energy in your top of your head, and you wish everyone in the world peace, love, and happiness. And based on vibration rules, the cool thing is people send it back to you your way. And I noticed the difference for me, like right as I got back, because I go to the gym in the morning, it's part of my morning routine. As soon as I got back from the retreat, I started like in my mind, like I wasn't like weird approaching everyone, but I'm like, you have a good workout. Nice lift, dude. And I was like just thinking that, and then people started approaching me, giving me like high fives and stuff. So like, no, the effect is real. So you leave the meditation retreat as a positivity generator, and then if that's your base, so like again, like both companies have that base. All my interactions, like you, I'm just trying to be kind, not nice, because nice is different than kind. But like every interaction I have with a person, like I'm trying to be nice. Like I'll give people random compliments, like how's that Ralph's this morning? And the person I like, her name tag thing is like I like hiking, and then I'm like, okay, well you like hiking too. So yeah, no, it's just you just start wishing everyone the best, and then it's been incorporated into my daily practice of I just wish everyone peace, love, and happiness. And I meditate daily in the morning because that's the best time to meditate. I have different particular methods I do. So if I really want to do hard inner work, I do the Vipassana meditation retreat. So like I'll set a timer for 30 minutes an hour, and I'll continue to skip my body back and forth. And that's the heaviest lifting because it's just straight silence, straight nothing. So that's usually the most challenging one. If I want to get in the mood for something, I'll do a priming or guided one. That's cool too, like because those have their specific needs. Or if I want like a training wheels one, I'll listen to something called binaural beats. And those are just 2 different frequencies in the ear. It forces your brain to specific frequencies, so it can promote like love, happiness, attraction, all that good stuff. So yeah, no, I'd say meditation is the single most beneficial thing I've ever started.
Wow. And so listening to that, you didn't start there. So how long have you been doing it that landed you in a retreat that because 10 days of silence, man, I've been talking since I was a little boy, and I don't know if I could stop for 10 days, to be 100% honest.
Oh no, like yes, yeah, no, 10 days of silence is pretty hard. Like the challenging part is the just straight length of time, because you're like, oh, like because you complete the first thing, it's like, oh, that was a long day, and then you saw like 9 more days. You're like, oh, okay, well, I guess I'm getting into this. So for me, it was like 4 to 5 years after like when I first started hearing about that. So after that, I started dabbling in meditation. I started reading the books, and then a friend of mine requested this specific one a while back, and of course I ignored it. So I'm like, I can't do 10 days. I have a job. What 10 days on now? So I ignored that for a while, and then eventually another person I trusted recommended the same one. I'm like, okay, there must be something to this, and that was kind of when I was more getting into spirituality. I'm like, okay, there's something to this. So I went to the site. I signed up for it. I didn't look into it at all, so I just signed up. I didn't know it was going to be a full silent one. I didn't know it was going to be taught by a dead guy. So I signed up with no expectations. I got accepted to the course, and I just kind of showed up, and then, yeah, I just kind of took it from there. So I had no expectations of it.
Wow, that's, I don't know. I mean, just listening to you talk about it, I'm like, man, for 10 days, I feel like I could really get in my head bad for 10 days.
You go deep. So you'll think of stuff you haven't thought about for years, because all the stuff comes to the surface. You'll have gnarly dreams. For me, my particular center was located in the Joshua Tree area. So it was Joshua Tree is like a desert type place in California. Mm-hmm. So our center is located in the peace area for Indians. So like where the Indians, when they would have their war, this land particularly was where there was no fighting. So I think that added something to the experience. But like, yeah, no, I'd lie out after the 10 days, kind of dirt out in the desert, like on a bench, because I was tired. And I would just look at like hundreds of shooting stars, just super grateful and all that stuff. So great experience. And after the meditation retreat, like, because after the 10 days of silence, I feel like everyone's like, yeah, you guys did it. It was like, that was the happiest I've ever seen a group of people, of complete strangers. And the group, the people who go, it's like, they all vary too. Like one of my homies, what he does is he does odd jobs for 5 to 10K a year and just travels and climbs rocks, lives out of a van, does his thing. Whereas my other friend, he's like ex executive at ex Facebook, like some Indian dude, but like, yeah, it's like ex Facebook, ex LinkedIn, ex all those tech companies. So like, right. Yeah, so like everyone's the same, doing their own thing. And he had an experience too. He told me about his friend who moved next to Vipassana Meditation Center, bought out the land next to the center, created a cabbage farm, started farming cabbage, and supplies the center with cabbage now. So I'm like, oh, that's cool. And I can see
That
why
is
they do
cool.
that.
Yeah, that is cool. And is that where you landed on? You said your new center being peace, love, and happiness. That's where it happened? Was on the retreat, or that had happened previously?
So previously, so at this point, I've been because like I'm very particular about the content I consume because I think your diet consists of your content, the people you're around, the food you eat. So just like if you eat garbage food, you're gonna feel bad the next day. If you're surrounded by garbage people, you're gonna feel bad the next day. If you're surrounded by garbage content, which is heavily pushed on social media, it's gonna contaminate your thought aura. So like I'm pretty particular in the sense of like the YouTube videos I watch, the books I read. I try to avoid social media for this purpose.
Mhm.
So I was aware of this as like on a like I understood it, but I didn't integrate it. So I'm like, okay, well I understand that everyone's base is peace, love, and happiness, but do I really buy into it? Nah, not really. Like I would tell myself I do, but like I'm like, no, it's still like hard, like job is hard, blah blah blah. But this is where I really just integrated it. I was like, oh, it actually is. That was funny. Why was I funny for so much?
So you were flowing in that direction, but you really it set in and cemented inside you as a being on the retreat.
Yeah, so I would say that's a good way to put it. I would say the reason was because that's when I cleared away. The retreat is what cleared away pretty much all the clutter in my
Wow. And you
because that
did
that
that because it's so intense. You're so intense in your in, and I'll say mind because that's all we know to say is it's our brain or our mind. But
yeah
wherever inside our body, this thing that talks to us is
yeah
the conversation back and forth in there was so deep and so you evaluated absolutely everything to the point that you were able to get a I guess it's what sounds like a healing to all
oh
that
yeah
was preventing peace, love, and happiness from being ingrained in you, and so you're able to kind of purge all that with all that thought and meditation.
oh 100%, and it's a
Wow.
great healing thing for a lot of people who go there. Like for example, one of my friends there, the reason she went there is because she was recovering from like a traumatic experience, which happened to be rape, and this helped her. It helped her put a positive spin on it. She's like, okay, well, this happened for a reason. If it didn't happen, I wouldn't go to retreat. I wouldn't have these vibes. So like, people go there. Like me, I've been very fortunate. I'm pretty blessed life in terms of just like everything kind of works out. Like good health, good family, good friends, and all that stuff. But like for other people, really going through stuff, like people I've seen people like break down. They're just like, oh shit, that person's crying. But like they're you could tell they're dealing with stuff. You're just like, you just the thing you do is you let them deal with it, and then they
Yeah.
deal with it.
So you are completely other than sharing a facility. That's the only interaction you really have. Yeah, I understand you said there was some group shit, so you would be side by side, but you didn't interact with them in any way.
Correct. So like in the so when you show up to the facility, the girls are separated on the one side, guys are separated on one side, just for I guess that's more obvious reasons. And then
Hmm.
so you have your room, you have your walking path, and you have your dining hall. So during the dining hall, you don't talk with anyone. You have your assigned seat, or you can sit outside. The meditation hall, that's where the girls and guys connect. But again, like no one's talking with anyone, just kind of like head down. Like it's kind of like ants, honestly, where you're just like you wake up on gong time. The gong rings, like, oh, okay, I have to go eat. I have to go meditate. So you have your set area in the meditation hall. So I had my seat. Everyone has their own seat, and the reason is because you put this. If you're in the same area for so long, you add energy to that area, and it becomes a positive space for you. Oh, so if you are starting meditation, just do it in the same place every day. That's just good advice. So like
Okay.
everyone's in the same spot every day doing the same thing, and that creates a powerful energy too. Because like it's for 10 days, like there's 100 people doing this whole thing. It's just you can just feel a difference in energy. You can feel a difference in the vibe. So like yeah, so you don't talk with anyone, and again, you don't even want to look at anyone in the eyes too, because you're
Yeah.
just doing your own thing.
So you're not burdened with the pressure of having to support anybody but yourself. I really like that.
Oh, correct. And also like part of the reason too is it keeps the meditation going the whole time, but you don't set expectations for yourself that way too. Like let's say hypothetically me and you were both going through the Vipassana meditation retreat. Let's say after our first day we talked about our experiences. You felt something I didn't, or I felt something you didn't. That would kind of color
Hmm.
the next day. It's like, why did Eric get this sensation in this area? Why didn't I get them? Am I doing something wrong? And then
Hmm.
that's just something you want to kind of want to avoid because again, it's a completely personal, it's a completely you experience.
And I'm glad you brought that up, man, because I feel like all of this is just it's our journey, it's our human experience, it's our individual thing. I'm the best Aaron, you're the best Eric, and to we want to get the most out of everything we can. And I think that does happen with meditation. So, and you might have experienced this as well. Like, how many times did you hear meditation changed my life? Meditation changed my life. And now people are hearing this podcast and they're hearing us talk about how meditation changed our life. And it does. It puts kind of a pressure or something on it where you have these expectations and you sit down for 5 minutes in silence and your life isn't changed. You're like, what did I fucking do wrong? You
Yeah.
know what I mean? You're like, I've heard everybody and their mama say that it changes your life to meditate. And here I've done it for 5 minutes and it didn't change my life. It is a long, it's a road that you are on your own, and you travel it on your own, and you get the benefits that you get, and you get the experiences you get. And I'm glad you pointed out that they really make a focus to prevent you from kind of tainting the water, if you will, with somebody else's thoughts or perspective or experiences or whatever, because those are for them and their experience, not for you and yours. And so I think that's a lot of what we're dealing with, especially when we talk about something like meditation, where it's hard to kind of explain it to somebody until they begin to do it and they get the overwhelming and calming effects that come with it. To finish up, Eric, I'd like to let people know I'm going to be sharing the link to your website on in the description of this podcast. But I'd like to give you an opportunity, man, if there's anything you'd like to share, if there's something people can keep their eyes on with you.
Yeah, no. So the one thing I like to share with audiences is, I think everyone is a conscious creator, whether they know it or not. So when you're conscious of creating your reality, just don't harm anyone and don't take anything away from anyone, and you should be chill. So if everyone follows those rules, I think we'd be in a better place.
God, couldn't agree
Yeah, right.
more, brother. Could not agree more. And yeah, you mentioned it earlier. You think I think this as well. And I know the duality of man, etc. But
Yeah,
when we're talking about, we all just want to be happy and have the best for us and our families, those that we love. That's all we really want. And we start stepping on everybody else's and trying to get in. And it really sucks. So I'm glad you put that very, very poetically, and I'm appreciative of that, man. I'm appreciative you came on and you shared so much of your time and knowledge with us, man.
no, dude. Thanks for having me. This was a very fun conversation for me too. So I had a blast.
All right, great, man. All right, thanks for everybody for listening. I'm so grateful that you listened. Hoping we brought some value to your day. Hopefully you have a great day, and we'll see you back next time.